Good evening, everyone, and welcome to my first impressions after the first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. And the draft only just completed about an hour ago, so these are my first honest impressions. Of course, I watched it live and I've saved some of these thoughts till now. So the first overall pick, of course, is Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans, and we sort of expected this since January, I believe. It's about when the rumor mill started flying. And this is exactly what we expected. Is Cam Ward a superstar? I personally don't think that he is. But if you can hit on a quarterback for the future, you can cover up a lot of holes on your team, and the Tennessee Titans definitely need to cover up a lot of holes on that team. It's a very Swiss cheese reminiscent sort of thing going on there. So, do I like the pick? Not particularly. Do I understand it? Of course. Does this mean they're going to trade Will Levis? Possibly. We'll have to wait and see on that. Who knows? Number 2 is the first surprise of the night, with Jacksonville coming up to number 2 to get Travis Hunter. And I don't think it has the trade details in here. I don't see them, but the trade was pick number 5, pick number 36, a 4th round pick, and a future 2026 first round pick from the Jaguars to move up to number 2. And I think that's a very good trade for the Browns, especially because the Browns need to start a rebuild here in the next 2 years. A lot of people say, they can compete for the playoffs or whatever. They're not winning a Super Bowl with this roster. I hate to say it, but they're just not. They have way too much money tied up in Deshaun Watson, and the team is getting older, and they need to get ready for the rebuild, and it's going to start a lot sooner than I think people think. So I like the trade for the Browns, and I like the fit for Travis Hunter to the Jaguars. I think it's a much better fit than ending up in Cleveland. I'm a big believer in Liam Cohen. I think he's going to do wonders with Travis Hunter down there, and I think he will play both ways in Jacksonville. I wasn't so sure about it in Cleveland, but I think he will play both ways in Jacksonville. I think he'll get a lot of snaps as wide receiver. The Jacksonville Jaguars definitely need a solid second wide receiver. Gabe Davis is not it. I believe in Parker Washington. I like the guy, but I don't think he can be a stud secondary option. But I think they should see more use of him from the slot, especially if they get rid of Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis is a non-factor. But Travis Hunter to the Jaguars, that's a good pick. That's a very good pick. And of course, again, this is also a pick we expected, but we didn't expect Jacksonville to be there. So number 2, Travis Hunter. Number 3, again, another pick that sort of went the way of consensus. Abdul Carter, number 3, to the New York Giants. What does this mean for Kayvon Thibodeau? Who can really say? If it were me personally, I'd just keep him, right? I don't think they picked up his 5th year. I think at the end of this year, he's just a free agent anyway. So if it were me, I'd probably keep him and then trade him at the deadline. Because, there's no rush to get rid of Thibodeau just because you brought in Abdul Carter. You can never have too many pass rushers, and Abdul Carter and Brian Burns sounds ridiculous, especially with Dexter Lawrence up the middle. That could be a very nasty defensive front from the Giants. So Abdul Carter, the Giants, another good pick, but again, we kind of expected it. New England is where it starts to get a little, we don't know exactly. We have our ideas, whatever. Of course, in my mock draft, I did have Will Campbell going to the Patriots, and I noticed a lot of Patriot fans online that weren't super into the idea of drafting Will Campbell. A lot of them seem to be pretty upset that, they're drafting a guard at 4, but it's like, give him a chance at tackle, right? I think he's probably a guard in the NFL myself, but give him the chance at tackle, move him to guard if you need to, and, it's another one of those things where it's like, you need good linemen. in the NFL, right? Like, you need a good offensive line, and you can never go wrong having good offensive linemen, because that's a player you can have for a decade plus. So Will Campbell going to the Patriots, I'm perfectly fine with that pick. I made it myself in our mock draft. I think it's a good landing spot for him. I think he's going to be a superstar there, and protecting Drake May needs to be their primary focus. Number 5, the Cleveland Browns, is Mason Graham. Mason Graham is another pick that we got right by technicality in the mock draft. I had Mason Graham at 5, of course, going to Jacksonville. If Cleveland was at 5 before the draft, I probably would not have picked Mason Graham to go to the Cleveland Browns if they were at 5 before I made that mock draft, but I don't hate the process. I'm a little confused by it, but Mason Graham is a very good player, and again, sometimes talent just wins out. Mason Graham and Myles Garrett, and I can't remember the name of their secondary guys. Oh, they just extended the 1-2. It's not Greg Newsome. Denzel Ward. There it is. Came to me. Denzel Ward, their safeties, that could be a very good defense. But of course I worry about the quarterback situation, as I assume they do as well. So I'm not, as huge on this pick as some of these others, but I do understand the process, and I get why they made the selection. Number 6, Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders. This is another one that I think we all kind of expected at this point. Pete Carroll, the Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's a big fan of the run game. He loves to run the ball, take some pressure off of Geno Smith, and Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers just sounds absurd, especially, if you get a rookie quarterback next year, or maybe you find a project that you like this year, maybe even if you do get Shedeur Sanders in the top of the second round later in this draft class, having that foundation of Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers is huge for rookie quarterbacks, to have that kind of security for when they do look, maybe 2 years from now, and they're trying to build something for a potential Geno Smith replacement. I really like this pick. The Raiders, of course, they let Josh Jacobs go last year, and we saw how that turned out. Of course, the quarterback play was non-existent, but having a run game in today's NFL, despite what people have been saying, having a run game is substantially important, and of course we saw that in the Super Bowl. Leading up to the Super Bowl, everybody in the NFC basically was a team that liked to run the ball. You had the Commanders and the Lions and stuff like that, like all these teams that just want to be able to run the ball. So good pick by the Raiders, big fan of it. Of course, we all saw it coming. So this top 6 here, we got right in our mock draft, and then after that it kind of completely falls apart. So we can take a solid round of applause for ourselves. We got 6 picks correct in the top 6. I don't really care about the trade. I'm still counting it as a win. And now it's time to completely lose all sense of self, as every other pick after that I'm pretty sure is wrong. So number 7, the New York Jets took Armand Meu. And this was one that I saw quite a lot leading up to the draft. It was everything I was seeing was basically saying the Jets are either taking Meu or Warren. Of course, in my mock draft, I went with Warren because the Jets haven't had a good tight end in my lifetime. But, I understand why they're taking Meu. Of course, it's just as I said before, you need a good offensive line. It is never a bad idea to take offensive linemen, even if they don't work out. It's a position group that needs 5 starters, and if even one of those guys is a Pro Bowler, that's huge. So Armand Meu, I'm not really sure if he's going to stay at tackle or not, because he is on the smaller side. but he has phenomenal mechanics as a tackle. It's just, is that size going to be bullied in the NFL? Is it going to be taken advantage of? We'll have to wait and see. But Membu is a solid prospect, and it's a great pick by the Jets, especially because they just lost both of their tackles that they had starting last year. Of course, last year they drafted, I think it was Olufashinu, I believe. It was either Olufashinu or Fuaga. It was one of those two. Well, actually, I think Fuaga may have gone to the Saints, so I think they have Olufashinu in New York. So again, more young tackles, all part of the process to just go out and start building a solid foundation for an eventual rookie quarterback. So I like this pick. Membu definitely grew on me over the course of the draft process. I wasn't, huge on him initially, but as time went on, I really started to see it. So, great pick by the Jets there at 7. At number 8, the Carolina Panthers, Tador McMillan. This one was kind of surprising to me. I know, at least I think, if I remember correctly, I think in the mock draft we sort of talked about how the Carolina Panthers would make sense as a place for a wide receiver to go. Just because is Xavier Legette really the guy? Adam Thielen's super old, whatever. But I thought, maybe they'd be kind of like the Packers last year and just, see what they've got in their young guys. But no, they went out and get Tador McMillan, and McMillan's very, very good. I think it's a very solid target for Bryce Young. What does that mean for Xavier Legette and Jalen Coker? Because I don't think Tador McMillan moves Adam Thielen, right? Like, if it were me, it would be Tador McMillan, Thielen, and then one of Coker or Legette, whoever wins the battle, I guess. Only because Adam Thielen still, even at his age of 300 years old, has incredible hands, and just having that kind of reliability is really, really good for a young quarterback. So if I was the Panthers, it would definitely Tador McMillan as your big X receiver, Adam Thielen in the slot, and then whoever on the other side. But I'm hoping that they start getting defense in the later rounds after this, because their defense definitely still concerns me. But it is a very, very good target for Bryce Young, and I'm excited to see what he does in Carolina. At number 9 for the New Orleans Saints, this is a lot like the Jets pick, where it's like they drafted a tackle last year, they're drafting another one this year, just because, again, you need linemen. You really, really need linemen, especially if you're a team like the Jets or the Saints or the Patriots, where it's like you need to build up this offensive line, get a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback, and you just need to have this shell to protect them, to keep them alive. Because again, if you hit on an offensive lineman and they are a phenomenal starter, even just an above average starter, that guy's going to play for you for a decade, right? You don't see solid starting NFL calibers tackles or guards or centers in free agency all that often, and there's a reason for that, right? Getting these guys now, getting them young, getting them on rookie contracts, if you hit on those, that is almost as valuable as quarterback in my mind. So great pick by the Saints. I'm a believer in Kelvin Banks, maybe not as much as some others. I probably wouldn't have taken him all the way up here at 9, but he definitely has the potential to be a long-term starter in the NFL. And then at number 10, this was another sort of shocking move to me. It makes sense, right? I get the I get the process here, but I was shocked to see Colston Loveland go at number 10. Not because he's, a bad prospect or anything, but it's like I just didn't think the Bears would be a team that would be considering a tight end. Granted, I'm not a big fan of Cole Kmet. I don't think, Cole Kmet is anything special. I think Colston Loveland immediately is the best tight end on that team. But I talked to a friend of mine who is a Chicago Bears fan, and they told me about, what they're seeing in training camp, or not training camp, but in the off-season process, and what they understand about Ben Johnson is that he likes to run 2 tight end sets. So they went out and got their second tight end, but realistically their tight end 1. So I think Colston Loveland is going to work great in Chicago. Again, it's a very reliable target for Caleb Williams. All part of the process of just building a competent roster around a rookie quarterback, giving them targets, giving them protection, stuff like that. So Colston Loveland to Chicago is shocking, but I have very little negative thoughts about it. It's just a little bit weird, right? But other than that, good pick. Michael Williams to the 49ers at 11. I don't feel very grand about this. I believe this is our first edge rusher off the board, and in fact, it is not. It's a second, right? Abdul Carter. How could I forget? Second edge rusher off the board, and I don't know that I would have done that myself. I'm not the biggest Michael Williams guy. He's just, it just feels like it's not for a lack of production or anything, or measurables. It's just sort of the eye test thing. He's got some funk to his game, I'm not the biggest Michael Williams fan, so I don't know, I don't know how well it's going to work out at the NFL level. I think it's fine, right? Like, drafting edge rushers, I'm never going to be mad at a team for taking edge rushers, because again, you can never have too many. The way that I see it, and I've said it many, many times on this channel, the way that I see it, you can never have too many pass catchers, you can never have too many pass rushers, and you can never have too many pass protectors, because this is a passing league. The process here is fine. The pick, I'm not the biggest fan of. I probably would have gone, maybe not Jalen Walker, but Shamar Stewart, yes, some of these other guys that I would have taken over Michael Williams, but I'm not in the NFL. Number 12, Tyler Booker to the Dallas Cowboys. In the mock draft, I had him going to the Colts, but I understand him going to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, of course, just had, what was his name? Tyron Smith, I think. They just had their long-term, Tyron Smith was the tackle. What is the name of their guard that just retired? Oh, for goodness sake, I can't remember. But they just had their long-term Hall of Fame guard retire. And again, I can reiterate this point all day, but you can never have too many pass protectors, and getting a good one is very, very valuable. So Tyler Booker being here where he is, it makes a lot of sense. I didn't expect it per se in the mock draft. It didn't come to mind then, but here he is now, right? So Tyler Booker to the Cowboys is boring, but it's good process. It's disciplined, which I think the Dallas Cowboys sometimes suffer with in drafts. It's a boring pick. Nobody's excited by guards, but it is the right move, I think. So for that, the Dallas Cowboys get a passing grade from me. The Miami Dolphins at 13 took Kenneth Grant, which was another one that kind of surprised me. I wouldn't have thought of the Dolphins going D-tackle, but I guess, just last year they let, what is his name, Wilkins? I don't remember his first name all of a sudden. They let their defensive tackle go last year, and I didn't watch a whole lot of Dolphins games, I'm not going to lie to you, because they're down in Florida, and I'm very far away from that, so I very rarely get Dolphins games, but it seems they may have missed having a run stuffer up there in the middle. But Kenneth Grant also has some solid pass rush upside as well, so having that interior defensive stud is very important. So, good pick by the Miami Dolphins. Honest to God, right? Honestly, this is a draft class where I feel like everyone made pretty smart moves for the most part, except for a few guys later that we'll get to in a minute. But there are very few picks that I just outright look at and go, oh God, right? Like, this has been a very disciplined draft, I would say. So, 14 Colts, Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren to the Colts was a pick we were making a lot back in the early stages of the draft process, and I think I may have fallen for the hype a little too much with Tyler Warren. Of course, in my mock draft, I had him going all the way at 7 to the Jets, and, that may have been an overreaction on my end to put him above Colston Loveland. But it is what it is. I think Tyler Warren, again, a good safety valve for Anthony Richardson if he does end up starting, which I have my severe doubts that Anthony Richardson is going to survive training camp. And if he doesn't, I think that is time for a regime change in Indy. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard. Chris Greer is the Dolphins. Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, I wouldn't be shocked if that was their death knell to have Daniel Jones beat Anthony Richardson in training camp. I think that would call for an immediate change in Indy. But Tyler Warren's a good pick. He's a good player. He's not as willing of a blocker as you'd probably want him to be, which I think is a huge difference between Loveland and Warren, is that Loveland is a blocker. Of course, he played for Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is a guy that is very, very adamant about blocking. So, big difference there between those two players. And I think that's why we're seeing, part of why we're seeing at least, Loveland go as high as he does. And, yeah. Anyway, 15, Jalen Walker to the Falcons. Now, Jalen Walker is a good player. I like Jalen Walker. What position is he playing, I think, is maybe the big question mark on him. I think he's a perfectly capable edge rusher. I like him off the edge just well enough. The problem that I think arises with him ending up in Atlanta is that they don't have anything else, right? It's just him, at least at this pick. So this was a bit of a confusing pick to me. I wouldn't have expected them to go Jalen Walker. I probably would have gone Shamar Stewart or Donovan Ezuraku, something like that. But, maybe they want to play him inside as a more traditional linebacker, who's to say. But Jalen Walker is a guy that I think will have a lot of success at the NFL level if they find his position properly. So we'll see what happens there. It is an interesting pick, though, for sure, to go for a more unconventional edge rusher for a team that has desperately needed help on the edge for the last 4 or 5 years. So we'll see what happens there. Walter Nolan to the Cardinals, I like a lot. They drafted Darius Robinson last year, along with a couple other guys. But Walter Nolan's a stud for sure. Just a big, beefy dude that can rush the passer from inside. Should be very solid in the run game as well, which I believe, if memory serves, the Cardinals sort of struggled with last year. But yeah, this is a good pick. I have absolutely no negative things to say about this pick. This is, again, just good process, good drafting, which I think, honestly, we saw a lot of in this class, or in this draft, which is surprising, right? Like, most of the time, it feels like half the draft is just a crap shot, but maybe that is a not a symptom, but just sort of a I don't know what word I'm looking for there, but just sort of how this draft class is, where it's not overloaded with superstars and, things of that nature, right? Where it's just a lot of solid NFL players in this draft, but nobody that would really knock your socks off outside of maybe Travis Hunter. So maybe that's why we're seeing these very, I don't want to say cautious, but just, restrained drafting. Shamar Stewart to the Bengals. I like Shamar Stewart. I think this is a very good pick. Again, I probably would have gone for more Donovan Ezeraku here myself. Of course, maybe that's just me being super high on Ezeraku, because as you'll find out, Ezeraku did not go in the first round like I sort of expected him to. But maybe that's, just due to him being on the smaller side, of course, and being more of a technique-focused edge rusher and not a physical, up-in-your-face kind of guy. So there is definitely precedent for that. But Shamar Stewart's a good pick. I think it was very obvious that the Bengals were going to go edge. It was just a matter of which one, right? And Shamar Stewart, I think, definitely has the potential to be a very, very, very good edge rusher, especially alongside Trey Hendrickson. Whatever happens there, I don't know for sure. If he gets traded, he is 31, so it's unlikely that Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson are going to play together for a very long time. But if they do, I think it's a very good pick. Seattle Seahawks with Gray Zabel. This is another one that kind of shocked me, because John Snyder has gone on record saying that guard is the most overdrafted position in the NFL, and he went out and he drafted himself a guard. Now, Gray Zabel has played tackle before, so, maybe they see him as more of a tackle, maybe more of a guard, who's to say. But I was shocked to see Seattle actually make a sensible decision and go out and get offensive line help. Of course, I thought it would have been tackle, but it is Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel's a great player. Probably projects more to guard at the NFL level, and I hope that Seattle sees to it and goes and puts him at guard, which I believe is his more natural position. But Gray Zabel's very good, and I'm happy to see Seattle actually try and protect Sam Darnold a little bit. Of course, Sam Darnold is horrific when he is being rattled by pass rush. So this is another just smart move by a team trying to build up their roster to be a quality competitor in the NFL. 19 now with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is another pick that I saw a lot of people react to on Twitter, mostly negatively, and that shocked me, right? That really did shock me quite a bit, that all these Buccaneers fans were coming out and they were upset at drafting the second best wide receiver in this class. I like Amecha Ibuka. I've been an Amecha Ibuka fan for a while. I've been critical of him at times too, but Ibuka to me is definitely wide receiver 2 in this class. And I think it's definitely a good landing spot for him as well, even with Liam Cohen no longer around. I think he's going to get a lot of targets. Maybe not this year, but probably next year. And, people will come out and say, oh, well, why didn't they go defense? And it's like, well, this is a very defensively heavy draft, right? Like, you can find starters all the way into round 4, I think, at a lot of these positions. There's guys in the 3rd round I really like at the edge. There's guys in the 3rd round I like at corner. There's guys at linebacker. There's D tackles that I like all the way into the 5th, This is a very heavily defensive draft. And in terms of wide receivers, I think there's maybe 4, 5, maybe 6 that I would even bother drafting myself. And, that sounds a little harsh, but it's just how it is sometimes, right? Like, it's positional value does matter. And a lot of the times, do I want an inside linebacker or a wide receiver, right? So Ibuka to me, I think, is a very good pick by the Buccaneers, especially when you consider that Mike Evans is 31 years old now. Chris Godwin has missed a lot of time, had a lot of injuries. We don't know what he's going to be like coming back, and I'm not overly sold on a guy like Jalen McMillan. I think McMillan can probably be a solid wide receiver too at his peak, but Amecha Ibuka is a stud, right? Amecha Ibuka can be that guy, and he doesn't need to be right away, right? He can learn from a guy who could be a Hall of Famer in Mike Evans. He could learn from another exceptionally good wide receiver at times in Chris Godwin. Like, I don't think this pick is as bad as people say. It might be a little confusing. It might be a little unconventional, but sometimes that's just how it is, right? That's what you got to do. And I'm excited to see if people are proven wrong about this pick. Maybe that's my own ego, my own desire to be right about Ibuka as a prospect, but I really am excited to see Ibuka play in the NFL. So I would say this is a good pick, again, by the Buccaneers. Number 20, the Denver Broncos with Jahdae Barron. This is another one that I was like, that's a little odd. Just because I don't know if Jahdae Barron is an outside corner at the NFL level, and I don't know if the Broncos see him as more of a Brian Branch type that, comes in as a corner and then moves over to more of a safety role, which was also something that Cameron Bynum did. I think that's also something that Cooper DeJean did. I don't remember if he was drafted as a corner or a safety. I think it may have been safety, but I think, and I've said it before, I think Jahdae Barron's best position in the NFL is nickel, and I know they already have Riley Moss. I don't know if, where the lineup is going to go for the Broncos. I probably would have gone more offensive heavy here, but, sometimes it is just you take the BPA and you make it work, and Jahdae Barron is definitely a good player. It's just he's not a conventional player. Like, he's undersized. I don't know how he can, I just don't know how I feel about him playing on the outside, but I'm sure Denver is going to make it work. And if Jahdae Barron can be everything that I think he can be in the NFL, that might be the scariest secondary in the entire league. Jahdae Barron, Patrick Surtain, Riley Moss, I forget the name of the one safety, and then the other guy they probably need to replace, but that could be a wicked secondary, and they need it for sure in that division with Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and now Geno Smith. Yeah, that's a division that's going to need a lot of secondary, so I don't hate the pick. I don't love the pick. I'm kind of whelmed by this pick. I think other teams would have made more sense for Jahdae Barron, but this is what happened. So the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Steelers went defensive tackle. And in our mock draft, I'm going to count this as half a point. In the mock draft that I did for the channel on Monday, I had the Steelers getting a defensive tackle. And, it felt sort of invigorating to see that they passed on Shedeur Sanders. Not to pile on Shedeur Sanders or anything, but I think it is just a better process to take something less risky and just get the guy that's going to be there for a long time. He's, in my opinion, he's the Cam Hayward replacement. I think that's the eventual goal for Derek Harmon. And Derek Harmon's an absolute beast. He's an absolute mauler. I'm a big fan of his. I only recently started digging into his tape some more and, looking at him and watching him over the last maybe week and a half or so. So Derek Harmon has grown on me substantially recently, and I believe he will be a star player for the Steelers for a very long time. What the rest of the roster is going to look like, I have no idea, but I think Derek Harmon is definitely a much better pick than Shedeur Sanders would have been. Number 22 is Amarian Hampton to the Chargers. I don't remember if I ever did that in any of my mocks for the channel, but it's something I've done in previous mocks before, just in my own time having some fun, and it's definitely a good play for the Chargers. It's Jim Harbaugh. He loves to run the ball. They've built a wicked offensive line over there. Maybe still need some help on the interior, but Marion Hampton and Najee Harris definitely seems like a winning duo there. So I have no problems with this pick. Marion Hampton may not be my favorite running back in the class, but I definitely understand the vision here. And, if you got a vision, you got to go get it, right? So, Marion Hampton to the Chargers. Solid pick. Not my favorite, but it is what it is. Here's my least favorite pick. Coming up right at, second least favorite, maybe. Depends. Third least favorite at most. Matthew Golden to the Green Bay Packers. I am not the biggest Matthew Golden fan. I understand his stock has risen for what, reasons and whatever, but to me, it just feels like he's not got everything there. He doesn't feel like a complete receiver to me. And I get a lot of teams seem to like him, right? Everything I've read, Matthew Golden has made a name for himself among these teams and in meetings and interviews and whatever else. And that's fine, right? And that's fine. I can understand when a consensus says something and I disagree, but, it is what it is. But Matthew Golden is definitely not my favorite wide receiver here. I think there were other players they probably could have gone and gotten. Maybe later in the draft or even at 23. I think there were other players, other positions, other wide receivers that I would have preferred over Matthew Golden at this slot. But the Green Bay Packers definitely do need to go out and find their alpha, their big dog wide receiver one. They got a lot of wide receiver twos. So many, in fact, I think we may see one of them get traded tomorrow. If I was a betting man, which of course I'm not, I'd probably say Christian Watson because he's on the last year of his deal and he can't stay healthy, and but that would just be me. I know a lot of Green Bay Packers fans don't like hearing that, but if it was me, I'd trade Christian Watson and just roll Golden, Dobbs, Reed. That would be my preferred process there in Green Bay, but I'm not the biggest fan of this pick. I probably would have gone either Luther Burden or Jaden Higgins. But, I can accept if I'm proven wrong on this in the same sense that I'm hoping people are proven wrong about Ibuka. There's definitely the potential for me to be wrong here, but not my favorite pick. 24, Donovan Jackson to the Minnesota Vikings. This is the most boring pick in the entire draft. It's just like it is with the Cowboys. It's just good process, I'll reiterate again for whatever time it is. You can never have too many pass protectors. If you hit on an offensive lineman, that is a starter for a decade. They have two great tackles there. Their interior has been god-awful for how many years, and, just going out, taking swings, trying to build something in front of a rookie quarterback to keep him protected, and trying to build a competitive offensive line is just a good idea. So I'm never going to be the guy that trounces a team for taking more O-linemen. Even if it's, not the offensive lineman I would expect it to be. It's just good process. There's nothing exciting about it. It's just, all right, yeah, it's a safe pick. Go ahead and do that. Except if it's Isaiah Wilson, maybe don't draft more of those. Anyway, 25, this is another pick that is in contention for my top 3 least favorite. And I say that as a guy who likes Jackson Dart. I don't think Jackson Dart is as bad as people say he is. I understand why people don't believe in him, for sure. He's a very, very raw quarterback. He's got some accuracy issues, maybe not the strongest arm, but I think Jackson Dart usually, in most cases, makes good decisions. He doesn't lose you games outright, which I think is huge. And he's shown he's a very capable passer. He's got a decent throwing base, and he's definitely a project, though, right? He's definitely a guy that needs work, probably needs a year to sit, and, maybe the Giants understand that, and that's why they went out and signed Russell Wilson, and, maybe they're fully expecting to just let him sit for a year. But my question is, why on earth are you drafting a project quarterback as a GM that's on the hot seat in the first round? Like, this is, I've talked a lot about good process right now in this draft class. A lot of teams doing things right now, in my opinion. What the hell are the Giants doing here? Your coach and your GM are on the hot seat. You trade up back into the first. Now, granted, it wasn't a ridiculous trade or anything. It's not what we're about to see in the next trade. It was 34, 99, and a third next year. So it's not, it's not a huge pay. Like, it's pretty even when you put it into the charts. You didn't pay too much, but again, what the hell do you do if you sit this guy for a year, which I believe you have to, right? Jackson Dart is a project quarterback. This is a guy you have to develop on the bench, probably, right? And, that's not to say he needs to sit every game, right? You probably sit him for a good chunk of the year and throw him in and get him some reps in some meaningless December football. But what do you do if you're the Giants and you have this second-year quarterback on the team, and the coach and GM that drafted him are gone? Like, you're basically dooming this guy, right? Like, you drafted this kid just to destroy his career if things go wrong. Like, I don't like the thought process behind this pick. It's not so much to deal with Jackson Dart, the player or anything, but I don't like the thought process. I don't like, I just don't like anything else about what this pick is. I don't know. We'll see, I guess. I don't know when Jackson Dart's ever going to play, but, maybe I'll get proven wrong and Dable will finally return to being the QB whisperer he's supposed to be. I doubt it, though. 26, James Pierce Jr. This is terrible. This is god-awful. The Atlanta Falcons traded up with the Los Angeles Rams, who I thought would be the perfect place for Jackson Dart to go. Get in a system with a proven coach and a proven front office and sit behind a future Hall of Famer and learn how to play quarterback. Of course, Jackson Dart didn't get there, but then the Rams immediately traded out. And that sort of, when I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. Were they trying to get Jackson Dart? Like, that would have been crazy. I would have loved to see that universe if that was what was happening there, where the Rams were trying to get Jackson Dart at 26. But then the Falcons come calling and they say, hey, do you want a free first-round pick in 2026? They gave up a 2026 first. They gave up 46, and I forget what the other pick is. I think it's a fourth. So it's a 2026 first-round pick next year, 46 in 2025, and a fourth-round pick in 2025, I believe. I can't remember what the last bit of that trade is, but it's 46 and 2026 first, basically. I don't really care about the residuals. Why? Why are we doing this? I don't think you needed to do this. I don't understand why they're trading up for... James Pierce Jr. as a prospect's very good. I get that. There's off-the-field concerns. There's, maybe he doesn't care about football sort of concerns, that kind of thing. Why are we doing this? You just drafted a potential edge rusher. And I get the Falcons have needed edge rusher for a very long time. This feels like a massive overcorrection in that regard. I think there were plenty of guys that you could have got down there at 46 that would have been perfectly suitable as starters on your team. And I just, again, maybe I'll be proven wrong and the Falcons will start a dynasty and that 2026 first round pick won't matter, but I doubt it. This just feels like bad process to me. And again, trading up can be hard, right? Everybody wants to trade down, get a ton of value that way. Trading up is an imperfect science. This feels terrible. I don't like how it feels. Again, it's kind of like Jackson Dart again, where it's like it's not really about the prospect. It's just why. What is the thought process here? I don't know. Again, James Pierce Jr., perfectly fine prospect. If if his character concerns aren't an issue in the NFL, I think he'll be very good. But it feels wrong, right? It just feels wrong. So, not the biggest fan of that pick either. Baltimore Ravens proving exactly what you're just supposed to do as a front office, and just letting things play out, not getting too aggressive, not letting other teams make mistakes, I guess. And they just go Malachi Starks. Malachi Starks is potentially a top 10 prospect in this draft class, and pairing him up with Kyle Hamilton and whatever else, that could be a really sick duo. That could be a huge impact on their defense and help them win championships. And this is just a good pick, right? Like, a lot of the times, if it's boring, it's good. It's not flashy. It's not exciting. Well, to some, it might be exciting if they like defense a lot, which at times I do. But this is just, not getting too far of your head of yourself, and mostly just going BPA for the Ravens. But it's good process. Again, it's just, this is what you're supposed to do. So, good pick by the Ravens. Tyleik Williams, drafted by the Lions. This is another one that, kind of like the Vikings with Donovan Jackson, where it's just like, meh, I don't have any negative thoughts about this pick. I don't have anything super, oh my god, this is crazy sort of thing. This is just fine, right? Like, I would have probably gone a different D-tackle. If I was taking D-tackle here, I probably would have gone Darius Alexander myself. But this is fine, right? Like, nothing really sticks out as wrong here, right? It's a D-tackle. Probably a Levi Onwuzurike replacement for the future, because they only signed him to a 1-year deal. That's, a basically nothing contract, and he is coming off of injury anyway, so that's probably what this is for, what they're aiming for at least, and I can't fault them for that. It's not my favorite pick. It's not my least favorite pick. It's a pick, and hopefully it works out for them. 29, Josh Connerly Jr. to the Washington Commanders. I was a little surprised to see them go for an offensive tackle. I didn't really think that they were in the market for that. Well, not that they weren't in the market for that, more so I didn't think they'd take one this early. And this might just be like another Baltimore situation where it's like they're just letting the board come to them. They're not getting too antsy. They're not getting ahead of themselves. And they're just going, hey, that guy's good, and let's take him, right? Like, and again, I've said it how many times, you can never have too many pass protectors, right? It's just, hey, this guy's real good, and he's an offensive tackle, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, unless it's catastrophic, I don't think anyone's going to care that you missed on a tackle, right? Like, we see that all the time. It's just like, it's why the Isaiah Wilson story is so crazy, because it's like, oh my god, you drafted a tackle, and he played 4 snaps. Wow, that's terrible. Yeah, I mean, it's a good pick. It's a tackle. I'm never going to denounce you for taking a tackle. One of my favorite picks in this draft is Maxwell Harrison to the Bills. This is really good value, right? Like, the class for corner is not super exciting. It's kind of weak, I would argue, as a class for corners. The Bills definitely need a second corner behind or alongside Christian Benford. Their secondary has needed some help for a while, ever since they aged out of guys like Trey Tre'Davious White, and what was the other guy there? Can't remember his name now. Jordan Poyer and the other guy. I don't remember, but they all got old and phased out, and they've needed sort of a recovery since Kaiir Elam was a bust, basically. Of course, Kaiir Elam is on the Cowboys now, I believe. Maxwell Harrison, it's a good pick, a good player, good athlete. I don't know too much about him. I haven't watched a lot of his play, but I saw his combine. I watched some highlights. I didn't do a super deep dive on him or anything, but if you can find a starting corner in this class, I'll give you a passing grade for that, because this is not a corner class that excites me, and of course everyone is injured, so hats off to you for drafting the one guy that's not hurt right now. But good pick by the Bills. I do like it a lot, and I hope it works out for them. Another pick that I'm a real big fan of, whatever that means. Another pick that I'm a really big fan of is Jihad Campbell to the Philadelphia Eagles, down here at 31. Of course, they traded up one pick from 32 to 31 to go and get him. My guess is there may have been a guy in the top of the second round, maybe the Raiders, because they lost Robert Spillane, something like that. Somebody in that 33 to 35, 36 range that wanted to come up and get Jihad Campbell because he was falling down the board a bit. And the Eagles said, hey, we'll give you a 5th round pick if you let us come up one spot. And so there they are. Jihad Campbell, I think, in Vic Fangio's defense is going to be very, very good. I don't know if they're going to play him at edge and make him a Josh Sweat replacement. I don't know if they're going to play him on the inside with Nakobe Dean and just have an absolutely absurd coverage package for the middle of the field, something like that. I don't know, but he's a versatile player, good athlete. I like this pick a lot. Good job, Eagles. And Kansas City Chiefs take Josh Simmons. Who could have seen that coming? I thought they may have needed to trade up to go get him. They didn't. It feels like every year the board falls in the Chiefs' favor because they signed some sort of pact with some sort of powerful entity out there that ensured they would always be competitive. Who could have done that? I don't know, but again, I don't want to repeat myself too many times about offensive tackles, but Josh Simmons, of course, is a good pick, good player. I saw a couple boards that had him as maybe the best offensive tackle in this class, so that would suck for the rest of the league. But yeah, that is the first round of the NFL draft. I will probably be back on Monday with the rest of the draft. That won't be as extensive. That'll mostly just be me looking at some guys that stick out, and we'll see what happens there, but that won't be till Monday. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and as always, I hope to speak with you again soon, and goodbye for now.